live. And if each of you have had a chance to click on my screen, it's in the middle and it says comments. There's private chat and I don't see anything there. And then in comments, you can see that he made sure that things would fit onto the screen so that when people are watching this in replay, they can pause and go, now, how do I get a hold of that person? Or what was he talking about? So this is the brainchild of Kitty Norton. I just enjoy saying her nickname of Lickety Glitz, who left NBC because mom needed her and left NBC, traveled back to Oregon, which is where my husband and I lived for decades, up until recently. And she said, wouldn't it be great to get a bunch of creatives? But I happen to know that the biggest, most populated county in Oregon said, we want you to come live. We want you to let people see your film that you made, Wine, Women, and Dementia. And we want you to show up at this exact hour. And she went, I don't get to come. And I'm like, this is your brainchild. You were the one that said, hey, get a hold of Sam Simon, see if he could make it. And I said, oh, what about Jordan and Meg with, art against ageism? And then someone that's been on the screen with aspects of aging for Aging Better Network, the resource website. She is, like one of those technological creative people. And she won an award for her work with, I better hold off because I get two blondes mixed up on the two different things they created. But C. Nathaniel was one of the people in the list of award winners. I'm like, I'll ask him, see if he can show up. So I did at one point say that today I've got stage performers and filmmakers and people who I remember when Jordan, this was way before we knew about baby or anything else. When I asked you, I said, what's your favorite form of art? And you said, I'm my favorite form of art. I'm just like, I feel like I should have a bowl of popcorn and just listen to each of you. So I see that you're all unmuted. Sam Simon, in your square, I see AKA. Is it Dementia Man? Is that the rest of it?
Yeah, Dementia Man.
Yes. When did you start playwriting later in life? And I'm going to let you decide what's later, like it was your third career, or has playwright been part of Sam Simon since the beginning?
I call it my fourth age. The first age of life is that we're born and get educated. Second age is we have a career. There used to be third age is you retire and die. But I retired or changed, and beginning in 2000, this is my second play. Call it existential theater because my first play was called, so I was a lawyer, I worked for Ralph Nader, I was a troublemaker all my life, all that's in the play. I've even been on the Oprah Winfrey Show once. And my son, I like this, my son called me a minor celebrity. So I was moved to do theater, been trained in improv. I did that as a personal character development. And out of that, I found, and my wife, Susan, who is fine now, was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. And the doctors pulled me over and said, get ready. And 9 years after that series of events, doing improv, I started talking about it. I eventually understood it as post-traumatic spiritual disorder. I needed to express somehow the emotion and pain of getting ready to hold the person you love most in life as they took their last breath. And the play is called The Actual Dance. And it too is, it's autobiographical. And I don't know how to explain it other than I imagine that there's a liminal place in the universe that this moment takes place. And we'd be dancing to the music that only we heard, music of our lives, surrounded by everyone we knew, maybe generations before us and after us, or yet to come. And she would exit. Anyway, it's called The Actual Dance. There's actually a book version of it right there. And then in 2022, I was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's.
Right.
And the issue is, what do you do next?
Yeah.
And by this time, I had a theatrical and artistic art cohort. And there are those who said I should just go kill myself. There are books about that. And then there was my artistic community who said, write about it. And that's what I started to do. And I now have a play in the first 14 months, performed over 50 times, called, Dementia Man, an existential journey. I want to just say one thing, because it's in the back of my square up there, is a measure of the impact that I could not have imagined. That picture was a gift. So in July of 2023, I debuted the show at the DC Capitol Fringe. In November, the first week of November 2023, so that's July, August, September, October, almost 4 months later, I get an email from a woman. Said, my husband and I saw your show. He passed away a week ago. And I want to give you this drawing he made of himself. It's called Losing Your Memory.
Yeah.
And I don't know I could never imagine that something I wrote would have moved this woman to do that in that moment. And it just encourages me to believe that there is something in this work, and in art, by the way, to talk about the power of art to impact people's lives. And so I'm humbled by that, and I'm so thankful that there are people like us in this that use art as a way to, in fact, I've come to believe the biggest way to affect people isn't policy papers and theories and writings and yelling. It's art. It's how you impact the heart and the soul of people, not demanding I'm right, I know, or here is a 30-page theory paper. It's moving people. And I'm humbled by the possibility that I move somebody to do this and give this. So thank you for having me.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
This is your spiritual expression. You were a lawyer. You when stuff happens, you think, I used to be able to handle everything. I had a handle on everything.
Yeah.
And then someone says, cancer, get ready for the end, which did not happen at that time. But you were already there. You were already there. Just those words that hit you. And you also said that you could see it, you could hear it. You knew that it was already playing in your mind. And so, Susie, I'm going to move to you just for a moment. I'm sure everyone has something to say right now. But Susie, you've had my Mom and the Girl. Am I saying the title correctly?
Yes, you are. Yes.
And then No Country for Old People. One was one style of expression, one to me came from a different direction. You, like Kitty, like Sam, used your intelligence, your talents. You probably called upon some people in your sphere. And was that true for you in any of this? That you were like, I can see this. I can actually see the lighting. I can feel the sound. This is already happening, and now I just need to make sure I get it on film or something. I don't know. If your answer is nope, never happened. Just, I just created something out of nothing and said, well, we'll see if it flies. I will be really surprised.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think both of these projects, No Country for Old People, which is a documentary, came out of a different motivation, and it was based on the experience that I had making and distributing My Mom and the Girl, which I had no idea I was going to make that film. It came out of, one of the anecdotes that I would tell about my mom when people would say, how's mom doing? And I would always regale them with some funny story that happened, or some, something poignant or funny or whatever it was, something that I learned. And every time I told this particular story, that people would say, oh my God, you need to do a short film on this, or you need to do a film. And I would say, I thought in my mind, just what the world needs, another Alzheimer's film, right? Because, I just felt like no one's going to want to see another one. It's hard. But then I ruminated on it, and I thought, this is such a different story, because it's really about three disparate people with three different kinds of diversities and different kinds of challenges that come together, unexpectedly, in the oddest way, and manage to impact each other's lives in such profound ways that it really showed that a different aspect of having a disability, which is what Alzheimer's is a disability. So that you can live with disabilities, and that you can thrive, and you can enjoy, and you can make a difference in people's life. Like you, Sam, you're making a difference in people's lives. It doesn't mean because it's, we all are on a death sentence, right? So that is the fact. And my mom lived 16 great years with Alzheimer's. Was it perfect? No. But is anybody's life perfect? No. Everybody has challenges. So I wanted to show that I loved my mom. I made a lot of mistakes. She, as per her personality and her joie de vivre, she taught me about how to deal with her. And I listened instead of trying to let her, be the dominant one and be the superhero. And then, and the other way, my mom, the No Country for Old People, came out of an experience that I had with my mom the last 6 months of her life, which wasn't glorious. And it really, and I wouldn't have had the cojones to do this kind of deep dive of a documentary if I hadn't done something that was a tough subject before, and had that kind of response that I did, which was overwhelming, and thought, well, if I do it like a narrative film as opposed to a hard driving, data driven kind of documentary, that I could possibly touch people. And that's what moved me to do it, because I saw things I couldn't unsee. And I thought, this is my purpose. This is what I can do. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a socialist, or I can't do anything but make stories and hopefully touch people's hearts, and then teach them at the same time edutainment. That's why.
My husband will say, if someone's video isn't working, but what they're saying is so engaging. We as a population have tuned in to radio. My sister and I had a phonograph in our room, a little, we put, the Partridge Family on there. My husband grew up listening to comedians on record.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I'm going to say that I feel that our culture, the culture that is 64 and beyond, has become accustomed to hearing, and that possibly the culture of today, it needs to see that little video, needs to see that picture, that when someone's running through socials, they'll stop for a moment because there's a picture that catches their eye. And so you've brought what I respond to the most, and this is just my impression, that people that were born after me are like, I need that stimulus. I need a hook. I need something that I associate with it, whether it's color or how striking the shadows are or something. And you're bringing that together. And both you and Sam had a similar experience, because the actual dance was what it was like to be the one looking at the loved one and already advancing toward holding that loved one for the last breath. And that prepared him to create Dementia Man and to perform it
Right.
with all that he is. And you started with a vignette of time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was while your mom was still living.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, now you've got this purpose of if I can't unsee it, that means it's still happening. It's, the wrong treatment, ill treatment, neglect, disregard. I'm using nice words for really horrible things.
I think what it is that I think what we do as artists is humanize. We have to humanize something, and that's what people connect to. So if there's not, we are attracted to human beings. That's a fact. Like, social media, you're going to get more response if you put your face up there than if you put up just a plain meme. That people like to see other people, and they like to find themselves in other people. And so if you can humanize a situation, that's what's powerful. That's what is impactful, because that's what we are. Babies like to look at human beings. Everybody does. We don't want just facts. We see facts and we go, la, 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 la. It's just, it's like noise. To me, it's noise. And I think it is for most people, because I started in the industry doing children's programming, and which is where the edutainment comes from. It's like hiding the peas in the mashed potatoes, So it's which I'm not infantilizing adults. I'm just saying that that is the human nature. So if you're telling a story and you're trying to impart information, why not do it from a human perspective?
That's the total truth. We all the way through the person. When I would enter homes, I was hired. There was assistance that would be helpful. I tried to come in with kind of a friendly, but not. I tried to come into those homes because I was kind of an invader with a changeable face, that I could realize this is a very private person. This is a person who likes lots of noise and happening. This is a person that would like a butler, someone who says, that sounds good, I'll get that ready. And in another situation, it's like, tell me what's going on. I haven't been out of the house in 2 weeks. Let's get, a person and a person's face. Thank you for saying that. I've been directing all this. I'm just looking at who isn't muted. Carl, did you want to go forward with this? Because you're the first person I've ever known that. I mean, there may have been someone else on my screen that just didn't mention it, but you're the only person that I know that has done a TED Talk, which is different than TEDx.
Yeah.
And it happened again. And I'm like, was it the same speech? Did they bring you back for an encore? Did you create it? Did you collaborate with others and bring this together? But when I mentioned you to a person on a different screen, completely different venue, and who coaches people on TEDx Talking, I said your name, and I said, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the last name right. And the person said, oh no, I've heard him. I've actually watched him. And I went, and he's going to come onto my screen. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. So please tell me, what possessed you to actually come here today? It must have something to do with some of these topics.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess my first TED Talk was about the power of slowness in a world obsessed with speed. And my more recent one is about aging and how we can reframe aging for the 21st century. Because my view is that we are entering a golden age of aging. It's never been a better time to grow older. But at the same time, we're carrying with us on our back in the form of an enormous rucksack full of big stones, all of these sort of chamber of horror views of what it is to grow older. We're wandering around with ageist goggles, and we're mired in the cult of youth. And so there's a kind of mismatch here between what's happening, which is that we're living better for longer than ever before. But think about it for a moment. Have we ever felt worse about growing older, right? So I fell into the subject through a very personal channel, which tends to be the way I end up writing books and giving talks, is that it always starts off with some form of personal existential crisis. And that's what happened here as well. With the aging thing, it was that I play hockey. I'm a Canadian, right? I live in the UK, but as a good Canadian, I still play hockey, right? And I play for a team called the London Jets. And a few years ago, we were playing in a national tournament up in the north of England, where we were in the quarterfinals, locked in a 0-0 tie with a team that we had annihilated the year before, right? But we just couldn't get the goal we needed to get into semifinals. And I could feel the nerves and indignation coursing through my teammates. But we just could not get and then out of nowhere, I scored the goal, right? So I scored the goal that got us into semifinals. And it wasn't just any goal. It was one of those highlight reel, goal of the month specials that I will be dining out on for the rest of my life. In fact, I suppose I'm kind of dining on it right now in a way. And so we got into the semifinals. I came off the pitch and I was just floating on air, right? I felt like a superhero. Yeah. Until one of the organizers of the tournament sidled up to me and he said, "Carl, nice one. Great goal. Congratulations, semifinals. But guess what? I've been flicking through player profiles. And it turns out that of all the players here, 148 players, you're the oldest, right?" Now, I knew I was one of the oldest, right? I mean, just look at me. I'm not deluded. But to be the oldest just completely rocked me to the core, just shook me to my foundations. In the blink of an eye, I went from goal scorer to granddad. And all of these questions began crowding in. I thought, are people laughing at me behind my back? Do I look out of place here? Should I take up a more age-appropriate pastime like bingo, maybe? And I came away from that tournament thinking, how can it be that my chronological age, the numbers on my birth certificate, have suddenly taken on this terrible power to define and limit me? And as I was on the train on the way back, I was with my teammates. We won the tournament. We were in high spirits, but there were moments when I just kind of pulled away from the pack, and I was just thinking, surely there must be a better story to tell ourselves about aging, right? Here I am playing well, having a good time, and yet feeling bad about doing the thing I have loved since childhood, just because I have another zero at the end of my age. And that for me was the starting point for, digging into, I spent a couple of years traveling around the world investigating our attitudes to aging and so on, and looking at the science and so on. and came back thinking, yes, spoiler alert, there is a better story to tell about aging, right? It is not all game over at 35. It is not all downhill from 40, right? Aging is a much more complex, tangled, messy, and wonderful thing than that, right? The truth is that every age has its pros and cons, and every age can be wonderful, but only if you embrace it, right? Only if you embrace the present, the here and now, without pining for the past or shrinking in horror from the future. And so I kind of moved from 180 degrees from being, and I say this straight out, I was up to the point I began investigating it. I was a card-carrying member of the cult of youth, right? I was appalled by the idea of aging. I just didn't want to think about it. I just pushed it off my radar. And then when I began facing it straight on, I realized, as I say, that there was a much more hopeful and upbeat and interesting story to tell myself, tell other people. And that was kind of the starting point for writing my book, which is called Boulder. And then eventually delivering that second TED Talk, which is called Why We Should Embrace Aging as an Adventure. So I guess that's a very long, roundabout way to explain why I'm here today, right? Aspects of aging, one of my big subjects. I'm still, my first original subject of slowing down and channeling the power of slowness is still something I do a lot of work on and speaking on and so on. But the aging thing is now the other horse that I ride. And sometimes they overlap. In the great Venn diagram, there is an overlap between slowing down and aging. So occasionally I found myself grappling with the two subjects at the same time. But I think of them as having, for me, work-wise, two separate lenses. Sometimes I end up in the same place. But today I feel I'm here carrying the aging lens, if you like.
I've experienced it. Our children are ours by adoption. And there was a point where the crib was gone, the changing table, and we were eating out. And I said, "Oh, honey, I'm going to ruin dinner." And he goes, "How can you ruin it? They're doing the cooking." And I went, "Well, I want to talk about adopting one more time." And it was only one person, similar, who said, "Do you realize how old you're going to be when this baby graduates?" It bounced around in my brain to the point where I thought, I cannot show that I am, nothing about me should show that that I've lived my full life, because then I'm going to get labeled, it's like, well, his mom's in the stands somewhere. Oh, look for an old lady, or whatever. I just thought, oh, I'm going to embarrass him. And it turns out I can love my children at every age, because other people have gotten it of like, I just thought you were too young to take on being a parent. Whatever it is, Ed Britton, 2 years ago, said that he was hiking, as he always did, and he was hiking with someone, probably a son of his or someone that he was hiking with. And as they came down from the summit, there were two more that were coming up asking the questions. They love to answer, you want to make sure you take this trail, not that one. And, so you can really get a view of the lake down below. And one of the guys goes, I just want to say, good job. I mean, doing this strenuous of a hike at your age. And he said, that was the day I went, I'm an age. So what I've learned is it's expectations you place on yourself, the expectations that other people have of you should fit into this gingerbread cookie cutter. If I know your numbers, then you are this, then you are like that. And I even have to retract what I said earlier. Is it true that people my age and beyond are happily in tune with something that's audio? And is it true that other people would prefer? And I loved Susie's responses, like, people of all ages They want to know you. Well, who are you? What's, I recognize that face. And I'm going, I'm still learning. I am still learning. Meg and Jordan, can I don't know. You've been on my show before. In fact, you came in. That was probably the most I've ever laughed on a whole hour, because it was 3 guys who said, sure, we'll show up. I'm like, thank you. I just haven't been able to get anybody. And you're all just laughing at each other. And we just kept slipping into football talk. And it was fun. And it was quite a while ago. But when I think of art against ageism, I think both of your names. And Meg, this is the first time that I get to meet you screen to screen. And you two I'm thinking you've been face to face, breathing the same cube of air. Have you, Meg and Jordan, have you been in the same spot together?
Well, we started Art Against Ageism together in 2021. So since we met, we have not left each other's side. I think there's a month doesn't go by where we don't see each other. It's weird. It's she is probably one of the closest people in my life outside of the people I live with, and same vice versa.
Yeah, we met in 2017 or 2018, right? Jordan?
Yeah, 2018, 2017. Yeah, so we met. We were friends for a while, and then this unlikely duo of people who are different in so many ways and have 30 years apart from each other called each other during COVID and said, I think we need to do something. And we met when I was in university, and Meg was teaching a course on analyzing civil rights movements throughout history and approaching those approaches, or taking those approaches to combating ageism. And so we said, well, why don't we leverage what is artistic activism to combat ageism, just based on what we were seeing in senior living. And so both of us are senior living nerds, and we nerd out all the time. And so, yeah, we've done a lot of different projects. And I'll let Meg pick up where I may have left off.
Oh, sure. So, yeah, I discovered artistic activism some years ago when I fell in love with something called Humans of New York. Are any of you familiar with that?
Yes.
Social media. This guy named Brandon started Humans of New York, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. And I fell in love with it in about 10 or 11 years ago, and decided I was going to start a blog that was fashioned after Humans of New York, but it was just about interviewing older adults. And I'm discovering their stories, and it was about storytelling, right? And I just found that to be the way that Brandon does it, by the way, is by Humans of New York, is that he takes photos of people, but after he takes those photos after he asks about their life stories. So he posts both their photos and their stories. And to me, it's so powerful because you can look at someone, we all do that. We look at someone, a photo of someone, and we formulate in our mind what we think we know about them just based on what we see. Yeah. And then we read their stories, and it usually just changes everything. And so that to me was I took that idea, which I have done with many of our projects you'll hear about. I was inspired by that idea to start the Age in America blog. And from that, really, the seed was planted for artistic activism and starting Art Against Ageism. And so with that, when Jordan and I started Art Against Ageism, we went to a local nursing home in Baltimore, and asked them if they would put this interactive art installation in their lobby. And they did. They were like, yeah, sure, why not? And it was really inspired by Yoko Ono's peace trees. If any of you are familiar with her peace trees, or maybe she calls them, maybe they're also called wish trees. They're all over the world. I think there's one here in DC at the Hirshhorn, where people write their wishes, I think, for peace, and put it on a tag and then hang it on the tree. Well, ours are really we call it the Aging is Living tree. And we ask people to respond to questions on one side of the tag about aging or how they feel about their age. And they write on the other side and hang it on the tree. And it's just a way to help to have conversations about age and ageism, and that's what happened at the nursing home. And we took it to a national conference, a leading age conference, a couple of years ago. And since then, we've done as you described earlier, Christine, we've done public art installations. We've done 2 at a nursing home, one at a nursing home and assisted living community, in which we took large scale photos of the people who live and work at the community, paste them on the outside of the building as a way to bring the inside out, so to speak, to get people in the community who maybe walk by that building every day and have no idea what's there to learn about what it is. And that, and then you also mentioned the Own Your Age photo booth, which we take to conferences. We've taken it to like a dozen in the last year alone. We've taken it to a dozen places. And Carl was, we're thankful Carl actually, so we saw Carl at the conference a couple months ago, and he owned his age, and we were very happy about that. And so we do that as well, and we have some other things in the works. I also just loved, I have to say, Sam, I really, Jordan and I saw you do a portion of your play at the Dementia Spring event in New York. I think it was in May. Was it in May?
Yeah, it was in May.
Yeah, it was so fantastic. We really loved it. And Susie, I haven't seen the entire film yet. I saw, of course, I saw Mom. Is it Mom and the Girl? Yeah, the one I've seen that. You sent me a link to that, and I also seen the trailer, but I haven't seen the full documentary since it's been out, so I'm very excited to see that.
It's not out yet. It'll be out in the beginning of next year. Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was already out. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but thank you so much.
I'm trying to get a full performance in the city, New York City.
In New York?
Yeah.
Great.
Maybe January, but if not, a little bit later. I was in Long Island last year, but I haven't gotten into the city yet.
Fantastic.
It's been very, very busy year, though. I don't wonder.
You've been very busy. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that you've been very busy. And, Jordan and I just love to identify folks who are doing really, artistic things and activist things, artistic activism, and we love to amplify that as well. And so we put that on our website as well. We push other people's.
I'm for whatever reason I've been a little distracted trying to post in the comments. There's a new 1-hour television show called Dementia and Living Well, produced at Virginia Public Media. It features 5 families. I have the link, but I can't get it up. If you go to Virginia Public Media, Dementia, maybe Google that, or Simon, you'll see it. It imagines just that. There are 5 different family stories, very different. It was interesting we were invited down when they did the premiere of it. And they're 5 entirely different lives. There is sort of an underlying, I could see it, an underlying story, this story of living, no matter what you're given, finding a way to have a meaningful, and poor Susan, my wife, was there. So in the other 4 families, one is an African-American man who has started a Zoom group of African-Americans with the disease. Then there's a woman who created Dementia Minds feature. Her husband has it, Dementia Minds. Mm-hmm. Then there is someone else who's got making libraries more. Susan says, wait a minute, I haven't gone out and started a new organization. Yeah, you felt left out. He said, he has her hands full with me. But there are, it's really nice. So I'm trying to get other public, it's available to every public TV station in the country to air, and is an inspiring show. They give me a little bit more room. I don't know if you all have ever had this. They filmed this last year, and the end of their show is Susan and me talking, and then the end of my play. And I sat there and listened to myself talk. I said, I don't remember saying that. I love it.
It's like, I'm good. Listen to me. I'm good.
No, it's not about being good. You know, I differentiate because I have the disease. Now, we're all getting older. Okay, so we have that. Carl, I haven't seen your stuff yet, but we've all, this whole issue of aging, it is a deep topic to talk. I mean, an important.
Yeah.
Because we all have our own. I didn't get to see my parents' age. They both died very, in their 60s. I remember my son turned 50. I had lunch with him and said, not only have I never been the father of somebody who's 50 years old, but I've never been in a family with a father, somebody 50 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, so I told him to teach me. Let me know how I was doing.
Yes.
But it is the aging thing. It's complicated, but
Yeah.
If somebody can get that up or share it, I'd love you to be able to do it.
Sure. I'm going to interject a couple of things. So my hubby producer is D. Scott Smith, motivational listener. And over in private chat, just letting my husband know, over in private chat, in that column are just a few requests. And so I'm calling upon him to do a little more. I'm also responding to Russ, who may or may not still be hanging out behind the scenes, but Russ Hedge was being complimentary and just wishing everyone a happy Monday and good morning. And he has been around me, and this whole me starting to, waking up one morning going, I know what I want to do. I want to bring people on screen. I want it to go live. And I'm the queen of the unfinished sentence of the, what was she talking about? Oh, she's off on something else. And as the people on the screen will attest, I can put the wrong information in in the message, and they're just like, what time zone is she in now? It's like, no, what? Sorry, that was old stuff. But people, out of, I don't know, love and charity, just show up anyway to come together. And I love, it's me. I crave information and personal experiences. And that's when I'm less demonstrative with my hands, and I notice, oh, my shoulders have relaxed. I just want to sit here with this person and hear what they have to say. And each one of you have been that way. So see Nathaniel, when we talked about that, he is stuck with a last name that is common, like Smith. And he goes see Nathaniel, just like my husband does, D. Scott. And I tend to do Christine A., but almost everyone has the middle name Ann. No, not everyone. But we try to distinguish ourselves. And you did. I found you in a list of award winners. The people in this room have been recognized, nominated, and awarded for their efforts. Others have said, yes, please come and do that here. Please bring your spiritual expression and put it in front of people so that we can all enter in. So I believe it was Kristen Nelson with Otavy that also won the same award. And I had to look up and find out how this gentleman names the award after his wife, and he's continuing his purpose and his legacy through thumbing through all these when you put in your application. There we go. Applications for, I believe this makes a real impact. And so his committee has decided that you are one of those people also in 2024, just as Susie Singer Carter, the Anthem Awards was also, whatever they call it, the gold, the blue ribbon, the first place. Yes, you did it. So see, Nathaniel, we have some time left and you are not being left out. I hope that you've enjoyed this whole interaction and getting to know people a little better. And so I just want to be quiet and listening to you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for all of you sharing. I'm looking forward to more dialogue with each of you. I do have a couple of calls scheduled with Sam and Susie real soon. But I am just excited to be here doing what we do. Been hit hard in my family with dementia. I've lost several family members. I have several living with it right now. And as multiple people have already mentioned, I deal with my emotions creatively. I'm a writer first, also a photographer, an author of 21 books, a filmmaker of more than 40 plus movies. And so when it impacted me, I said, I'm going to do something to share my experience, which was a short film kind of sharing a piece of my aunt and my cousin's story called That's My Brother, because my aunt calls her daughter her sister. And so when I released that film, people started asking me questions about my aunt. They said, well, what type of dementia does she have and what stage and all of that? And I couldn't answer any of the questions because I didn't know. In my family, we never talked about it. It was just dementia. We didn't know any types. We didn't know anything. And so it started the quest for me to learn more. And once I learned more, I feel an obligation to share what I learned with others. So I created the documentary, Remember Me, Dementia in the African American Community, which talks about what dementia is, the risk factors, the mistrust and distrust within the Black community with the medical community. All of those things that we don't often talk about. We have to find ways to have these conversations. And so we created a documentary, we put it out, we've been taking it around the country, allowing people to see it. And as several people said, to see themselves, now are able to talk about it because they say, you know what, looks like my grandmother, this looks like my auntie, this looks like somebody I know. And now we can have those conversations. And that spiraled quickly into Exposed Dementia, which is our nonprofit organization. And we're having our first conference that deals with art and the media to have that impact and to advocate. And so that will be March 28th through 30th in Baltimore. So hopefully all of you guys will be there, be a part. We're super excited. Registration is just open today. So people can find out more information at exposeddementia.org. Just go to the conference tab and all the information is there. But we're super excited because we're using our experiences, we're using our talents to have that impact, to reach people where they haven't been reached before, and to let people know that it's okay to have these conversations, because once we have the conversations, now we can take a step forward. If the conversation wasn't had about my film that I didn't have answers to, I would never be in this position now to help more people. And so if I can create something or do something that would allow that conversation and then for us to take another step, now we're able to have a greater impact. I tell people all the time, and you'll see it on the website as well, you don't have to do everything, just do your part. And all we're trying to do is our part. And I know each of you are just trying to do your part as well. So thank you again for having me, and hopefully I'll see you guys at the conference.
That's amazing.
Exposed
Christine,
dementia. Yeah,
can I
go
just jump in? Meg mentioned Dementia Spring, and you just got the Impact Award from 2024 for Dementia Spring, and that's where we saw Sam. So it's just funny connecting dots.
Yes, dots are connecting.
Yeah, and I actually work for a nursing home here in Baltimore, and it's just amazing that you're doing this work. And for some of you that are watching and listening that do not know, Baltimore is one of the leading cities for dementia and dementia diagnoses in the country. And it is a huge problem here. Even we at Keswick are working on we're building a cognitive resource center, which will open next year to address some of the issues, but it's just going to take more. And it's so awesome to see other work coming here to Baltimore to help us, because it is a serious problem that is a really big public health crisis, and no one really can understand there's no like environmental, we don't have like a big factory here that's causing, that we can point to and say, well, this is why. It's really interesting. So just wanted to connect those dots.
And I definitely hope to go to the conference as well.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent.
Love to have you all.
Jordan, that just effervesced out of you. You were just like, are you kidding? You're just right. And then it's going to be here. And
It's gonna be here. Yeah, in my city. That's awesome.
Well, so I just wanted to say, we're talking later today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm getting people mixed up. Well, and Mark, Dr. Mark, from once trying to put together a thing where we all do a play together, for parts of our play this year.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're gonna work to multiple ways. It sounds like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That sounds
Speaking of Dementia Spring, Dr. Mark and I, we are doing a mini conference 4 times in 2025 as well. So we're going to take the conference that we're doing in March in Baltimore. We're going to take a reduced version of that, and we're going to partner and do that in 4 cities. The cities to be named. We're going to be announcing those cities in January. But what the conference does is it brings all of those aspects of the arts to it. So at the conference, we're going to have a comedy show. We're going to have a film festival. We're going to have live performances. We're going to incorporate music therapy, art therapy. So we're bringing all of those pieces together as a draw for one, but then also to let people know how important these areas are in dealing with this crazy, ridiculous, I don't even know what to call it sometimes, because I don't want to label it, but to be able to really address the need of getting the information out and helping people who are impacted.
I don't know if you've been. Well, I interviewed a guy whose name I'm not going to remember. There is a large campaign to get rid of going on, being launched to eliminate, at least get the federal government not to use the word dementia. Mm-hmm. And it's like retarded. It's in the play. I mean, I advocate that. I think
What's the alternative?
Well, we're working on it, right? I mean, first of all, the medical world, I don't know if you know, in 2013, DSM-5 shifted from that dementia to neurocognitive disorder, major or minor. The medical world doesn't use it anymore. Mm-hmm. And by and large, cognitive disorder, cognitive disease is more than adequate. Because dementia isn't a disease. It isn't a specific condition or disease related. The cause of the cognitive disorder may be Lewy body, it may be Alzheimer's, it may be any number of things. So somebody, in fact, we just lost a good friend at the funeral yesterday, had Lewy body disease, which is a cognitive disorder, as opposed to Lewy body dementia.
Mm-hmm. I think dementia also, I've had people in the health industry tell me that my mom was demented, which I find is like unbelievably insulting and so
that sounds sort of Victorian.
It's ignorant. And that to me is a liken to the word retarded and things like that, because it really conjures up a visual of someone who's out of their mind, who's like dangerous.
I'm not. The line in my play is I'm not insane. I'm not crazy. I'm not mad. Yes. I'm just. I forget what the rest of the line is. That's why I carry my script in my head.
I do too. We all do.
So, No. So there's a lot of work to be done. And it's glad to hear you all.
Can I ask a quick question of everybody? There's a new show that's out. And, years ago, I had a pilot called Forever Young, and it was in an assisted living. It was very, it was forward because people were not interested. This is about 8 years ago, and I had it at Fox, and had it completely attached with great talent. Could not sell it, but was, I was under contract at Fox, and they said, write something about your life. And so I did. And anyway, there's a new show out called A Man on the Inside. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the trailers for it, I thought, oh, great. It looked really good. It looked accurate. And I have different feelings now that I've watched it. I was just wondering what other people thought, because I still think we have issues with the way that we, portray that demographic, and I find it, lazy.
I thought I watched it. It has, as someone who's worked in the field for many years, I found it to be really done very well. I mean, there were some unfortunate stereotypes, but they did that with people of all ages on that show. So I think it was done as hyperbole and humor, but I thought it was really fabulous. I really do. I thought it was great.
That's
is that the Ted Danson one on Netflix? Oh,
yeah.
Right. No, I haven't seen that yet. It's on my list. Yeah.
I was impressed by how, for example, they featured the executive director of the Community, and I thought they did a really great job of showing how difficult her job is, and but rewarding as well. And
gotcha.
I thought that was pretty accurate.
Good. That's good to know. Yeah, for me, I just thought they could have done bumped it up a little bit and made it, because I think that it's such a good arena for comedy and for, story, and a lot of it went very, tropey and not, I think because for being like the freshman project out of the gate, I really wanted it to be like so good and really well thought out. I'm not saying it doesn't have potential. I wish I was in that writer's room, but I think that they've got a great cast, and I hope it gets, to me, I hope they flesh out the characters a little better, make them more real, and make them more relatable, because not everybody that's 70 looks like that or acts like that, and is there's all different, we're on a spectrum of when we're a certain age. So
there's only one time when I don't like my job, and it's this moment, as I see there's only seconds left in the hour. I just and I'm like, but we're getting to the good stuff. We're, connecting and debating and wondering and asking, well, what's the alternative? And it's, neuro, it starts with neuro. I love this. I'm gonna let you know that Vanessa Delaney, does anyone know Vanessa Delaney?
Yes.
Says, who does?
I do. She's part of our team in Baltimore.
Well, go ahead and give her the C. Nathaniel shout out here. She said, proud of the Baltimore Connects.
Thank you, Vanessa. So Vanessa is featured in the documentary Remember Me as well. She was a caregiver for her mother. And so she's been working with me to make sure that we continue to have an impact.
If as far as I know, and it's not a brag, but it's maybe a mark of ignorance, I'm the only one with the disease who's on stage. I wish we could find more of us.
I don't know of any. So that's getting my wheels turning for part 2 of this sort of thing. LinkedIn user could be the same person, said language is so important. Thank you for speaking out about this. Vanessa's waving. See, Nathaniel, you said that people can see that's my loved one. That's what I experienced with a person who has already passed away, or I'm no longer the primary caregiver. I have the words to talk about this, and just brings me right back to the beginning of our conversation of this just had to come out of me. It was either going to rip and tear out of me, or it was going to come out in a way that it did when Sam was writing about his wife. We are at the hour. I simply have to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
You.
everyone, for what you have created, for doing a really great job at creating it. It's being recognized, nominated, and awarded. Thank you so much, everyone. I know we got to close
Yeah.
the curtain and
Thank you all.
be at the